Great. I don't think she said all that. I think that's you improvising a little bit. Downgraded from one of the best you've ever done to, all right. Yeah, sure. Why not? Okay, so I am guessing you know the feeling of being number 4,328 in like the Ticketmaster queue. You know, when you're trying to just buy a ticket to a show, but there's also so many other people who are trying to do the same thing. Here's the thing. Live Nation, which is a company that owns Ticketmaster, there was this case against Live Nation trying to break up Live Nation and the amount of control that they have. And last week, Live Nation settled out of court before they actually ended up getting to trial. Vass Bednar is here and Rollie Pemberton are here to talk about the consequences, because there's actually quite a few consequences of that case not going to trial. I got a lot out of this conversation because I always think that I know how much control Live Nation has in terms of like the music industry and stuff. And then my mind continues to be blown. Maybe yours will be too. Let's get to it. I feel like every time there's like a music industry crisis, like we go, Vass, Rollie, get in here. We got a problem. That's nice for me. You guys are like the Avengers, but of, competition.
We're assembling a team.
We're putting together a team. That's the thing that's happening here. That's what I'm going to start with you. In the lawsuit, the Department of Justice said the concert industry is, quote, broken, and they tried holding Live Nation and Ticketmaster responsible. Is this fair? Like, how much control does Live Nation have?
It's not just the control, it's how they wield it as well, right? So they kind of sit along the ticketing supply chain. They own and operate or have exclusive agreements with a lot of venues, right? And then they tie their proprietary ticketing software to those venues, and they also lock in artists who they promote through the Live Nation element. So what that case in the US is fundamentally saying is that they often are abusing this power by locking in artists, by forcing a lot of these other conditions onto them. And that's part of why the fan experience, or just getting a ticket, as you said, has depreciated so much.
I was going to say that, like, there's this idea of things just getting more expensive all the time. And someone was listening to this going like, hey, tickets cost way more than they used to. In simple terms, is this why tickets have become so much more expensive?
In simple terms, I would say yes and no. In the sense...
Okay. I love this.
In the sense that, Bloomberg is reporting that there are emails where Ticketmaster executives have bragged about how they can extort fans by adding in all these sorts of fees, right? So what their placement in the market doesn't change is supply and demand around venues, the availability of venues, and the demand for incredible artists, okay? That is just a fact. But their ability to impose certain service fees, their ability to add, their ability to make ticketing opaque, I think speaks to that market power. So yes, people are hopeful that if there's changes through these cases, and there are lots of class action lawsuits too, that we might see more competition and competitive intensity in that marketplace, which will be good for pricing.
Rollie, let me ask you, you're a touring artist. How does Live Nation affect how musicians end up touring?
Well, they control 78% of the major amphitheaters in the States.
Okay,
they own and operate
big chunk.
at least 390 venues across 50 countries. So what that means is if you're an artist of a certain size, mid-sized, big artist, it's basically impossible not to work with them, right? And then there's situations like there was an arena executive who claimed that when their venue decided to use a different ticket provider from Ticketmaster, Live Nation responded by allegedly moving a Billie Eilish concert to a different venue. They're really some of the biggest gatekeepers in the music industry.
Let me just push into this a little bit more, because like we're talking about musicians at the highest level who are playing stadiums and major theaters. But when you think about like working musicians, how does Live Nation sort of end up factoring into their careers? People who are not, trying to sell amphitheaters everywhere they go, but they make a living by touring. They make a living by being working musicians.
Yeah, one of the things that I've advocated against in the past is merch cuts, and many of their venues have in the past.
Do you want to explain what merch cuts are?
Yeah, a merch cut is when a venue takes a percentage of the shirt, album sales that an artist will make at a venue, anywhere between 15 and 25%. So many of their venues have done that in the past. Also during the pandemic, Live Nation, they bought countless mid-size and small venues, which were struggling at the time. but this ended up impacting a lot of local music scenes because when these venues go under the big corporations, they become a lot more profit driven
Hmm.
and they're less likely to support, emerging weird music. And also the money leaves the scene and it stays out of the local music community and goes to Live Nation.
I think I can safely say that I'm around a table of people who are fully in support of weird music. I like when weird music emerges. I think that's something that we all sort of enjoy. But Vast Live Nation have said the claims by the DOJ are without merit. And some argue that Live Nation buying up those smaller stages ends up keeping a sort of really already struggling local music industry scene kind of alive. What do you make of that response?
The old, we're not a monopoly, right? I think it's a little bit in the name, right? Ticketmaster, not
Yeah.
it's not Ticket Friend or whatever.
Yeah. Ticket helper. Ticket. Yeah. It's not that. It's like ticket.
Ticket Pal.
I appreciate that there's a universe where you can look at that spree of acquisitions, right? That their ownership and the terms that they impose on those smaller size venues as something that is and can be helpful if the choice at that period of time was for them to close. But again, it's about the behaviors that they tie when they restrict and dominate access to those venues. And it's not just for music, it's sports too, right? Sports stadiums, they have an even higher control of access there.
I think when I think about the idea of how much control that they have, I end up being interested in this case. And I think like it's one of those cases. I'll put this to you, Vass. I think like it generates interest in how people understand their own ticketing ecosystems. Like maybe you've never had a chance to think about this before, but then suddenly you're being confronted by all this news stories, right? All these like news stories about Ticketmaster, about the ways that they maybe have more control than you thought that they did. Does that end up changing a consumer's relationship to buying these tickets? Like, does it end up impacting demand at all? Do we know anything about that? Or do you not really have much choice when it comes to that front?
I mean, that lack of choice, I think we see people expressing anger and frustration when they're trying to access tickets and enjoy culture, right? The commodification of culture, the growth of those prices, and also artists not necessarily seeing returns or cuts of that, I think is certainly part of the zeitgeist. But the way you and I as fans experience the company is not what's at the very heart of this case. Again, it's that flywheel of access for artists and then the terms they impose both on artists, but then how they're able to squeeze fans down the line.
Well, let's get to the settlement. So the U.S. government wanted to break Live Nation and Ticketmaster up. Instead, they end up reaching a settlement. Rollie, talk to me about that settlement, man. What are some of the terms of the settlement?
Okay, so
I love the big grin on your face as you should like, all right, let's get into it.
Proposed settlement.
Proposed settlement. That's right. Not agreed yet.
This is the proposed settlement. Yes. They will cap ticket service fees to 15% of a ticket's price. Live Nation will let venues make it so a certain portion of tickets can be sold by other ticketing companies beyond Ticketmaster. They will divest booking exclusivity rights from 13 of their many, many amphitheaters. They'll create a $280 million fund for damage claims from different states. And yeah, that's the plan. And to me, it feels really like a slap on the wrist, especially compared to being broken up. And it also, to me, just leads to more questions like, which 13 venues? Like, is it like the Kalamazoo amphitheater or something? Or is it, Radio City Music Hall?
The
It's a big difference,
Kalamazoo
right?
amphitheater might take, I don't know, the capacity of that particular venue, but I will say like there's a sense in your voice and your tone as you sort of deliver the proposed changes in that settlement where you're like, this doesn't seem to go nearly enough, right? Like that's the sort of reaction that I'm picking up from your tone. Am I right in interpreting that?
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, to me, it's just the settlement was a way of getting ahead of the trial, so there weren't, more things unearthed about their business practices.
But,
So
Vass, let me ask you: Is Rollie right to just kind of have that expression on his face? Like, will this settlement sort of change anything? Do you think?
This proposed settlement won't change a lot, which is why the case matters so much, right?
Right.
The states, they have a more federated approach in the states to antitrust enforcement, are still saying that they want to pursue the case at the state level. So this isn't the last we've seen of it. But again, in terms of their own market power and us having a laugh about it, I think it's very difficult to find people who are supporters, right?
Yeah.
Who are like, I actually love Ticketmaster. I think the ticketing system is great. Even that 15% fee, like opening up that system to more interoperability and having other software there.
Yeah.
Many have made the argument that, they don't have the incentive to invest in their technology and that experience because
They're the
they just
only
don't
ones.
need to.
Yeah.
So
They're the
that's
biggest player.
They're the biggest player. It's another reason why it sucks so bad. And that other software systems might be like, oh, we don't even know how much we can even integrate there. So again, that's why it's important to keep up that pressure and keep considering, really have a good look at how this company operates and if it's in line with our expectations and values for how markets are supposed to work.
Well, to bring it home here, there is also a case in Canada against Live Nation that's ongoing. Does the decision to settle in the United States, does that mean anything for Canada's case?
Yeah, it means that Ticketmaster doesn't really want this stuff to go forward to the finish line. They probably know that the FTC has a pretty great case. These emails and those conversations, to be so explicit about how you're abusing that market power is damning. So I think it should motivate us here in Canada. I mean, we can't count on other people to do our homework for us. That used to be one of my side hustles when I was in high school. I would, I needed more homework to do.
Yeah.
But we should be governing the markets that we have here, even though this is a global and very North American market that has that digital layer. So I'm going to continue to watch that case, and I hope that we continue to learn from regulators who have been working really hard to bring forward something sophisticated in the U.S., only to have it kind of potentially nudged away in this really kind of surprising way that's, by the way, pissing off the judge.
Rollie, over to you, Pat. Like in terms of artists, is there anything that artists can do here?
Yeah, I think the main thing artists can do is just speak out. If they're experiencing something that is impacting their fans, they just got to speak out about it. I mean, there was a really good example of Olivia Dean this past fall. Like,
Let's go.
She spoke out about the really terrible reselling situation with her tickets, and Ticketmaster capped resale tickets in the UK. So it's like they will listen to the bigger artists, especially. And I think also I had started this campaign, My Merch, that went against merch cuts, and it resulted in almost 200 venues in North America pledging to not take a cut from banned merch sales. So artists banding together against things that these venues and these promoters are doing is a good thing.
Vass, last word to you here. Outside of breaking up this company, are there any policies you think can really turn the tide?
Rollie mentioned the potential to cap resale and that sort of access. That's very technical, and that's policy too. The case in Canada also brings forward radius clauses, which are increasingly a sort of a norm in the industry, but that Live Nation Ticketmaster is able to say, okay, you're playing in Toronto, so you're not going to play, you can't work with another promoter to play somewhere within 80 kilometers or 90 kilometers, that element. I see the trade-offs and understand some of that planning, but again, it is a restriction that's being imposed on artist freedom and their ability to come and see the fans that they want to see where and when they want to and can. So that's just, I think, a differential that's interesting to consider.
I'm going to leave it there, but it's really, first of all, it's worth noting that the court judge in the United States still needs to sign off on the settlement, but already over 20 different United States have said that they're going to reject this deal. They're going to continue to pursue the case, even without that federal government. So we're going to keep following the story. But in the meantime, I want to say thank you to both of you for coming on the show today. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Yes, of course. Vass Bednar is a managing director of the Canadian Shield Institute and the co-author of The Big Fix, How Companies Capture Markets and Harm Canadians. Rollie Pemberton is a rapper better known as Cadence Weapon. Really appreciate your time. My name is Elamin, and this is Commotion.